Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. It is morning somewhere, afternoon somewhere, and evening somewhere. I'd like to welcome to the Engrafted Ministries. This week we're going to be talking about mental health and the church with Deacon Anthony Kelley, who is a licensed clinical counselor in Phoenix, Arizona. We want you to like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe this video, share it with your neighbors, your friends, and even your enemies, because it's bound to bless and help someone. At this time, I want to welcome Deacon Anthony Kelley.
How's it
Hello,
going,
my
minister?
friend. How you doing?
My favorite minister here. I'm doing great.
Good. Yeah, well, we want to get right in. Let's start right off real quick. Tell us a little about yourself right now.
All right. I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm a licensed independent mental health practitioner, and I've been in the field now since 1987. I've been working with in forensic mental health. I've worked in sex offender services. I've worked as a mental health manager at the jail. I've owned my own private practice for a while. I've worked in substance abuse. I've worked all over, just doing like different things around the community. I've been in the field now, as I said, since 1987, and I just do a various amount of different things with mental health.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Glad you have a lot of experience. You've done a lot of things throughout your life, and we also know that you got a little bit of baseball experience in there. So, after the baseball.
Oh, you had to sneak that one in there. Yeah, I played. I played professional baseball with the. Yeah, I played with the Houston Astros when I had hair. Back then. I was a pitcher. The pitcher for the Houston Astros for a while. I played in the minor league AAA for a while. Had a very good, successful career until I got injured, and then I had to go and do some other things with my life.
Okay, what made you decide to choose mental health counseling?
Well, when I was playing baseball after the season, when the season came to an end, I would always, have in the back of my mind, I say, all the kids that would come to the ballpark, they would always smile. They would always have, good things to do, coming with their families and their mothers and fathers, And so I knew that there was something else out there. So one of my friends asked me to come to speak at a center called Nebraska Center for Children and Youth in Lincoln, Nebraska. And when I was there, I began to fall in love with the place because, they had kids that didn't have smiles on their face, that they were traumatized, they were abused. A lot of them, had a lot of behavioral and mental health issues, during that time, And so I started working there after the season, and I began to like it. And then when my baseball career came to an end, they had hired me and had me stay there to work with them. And so ever since then, I just loved it. So I've been working with in the field, like I say, since 1987. And then when my career ended, I began to take it a lot serious and, get into working with at-risk youth, and then that just started morphing into other things.
All right. Now, we know that you're also involved in church, and can you tell us a little bit about what ministries you're involved in church and what you got going on there?
Yeah. Right now, I am the superintendent of our Sunday school, I mean, that was something, I wasn't looking for it, but it came about, there was a superintendent there before, and then that person, he decided to leave. And so then our pastor had asked me, would I be interested in the position? And, I try to do anything, for the church, whatever is needed. I didn't have a background in being the superintendent, but, you learn and and just allow the Lord to lead you and guide you, through things that you need to do. And so I got involved in that. And then on Fridays, the Lord put on my heart, because I was saying, that mental health, doesn't just stop outside of the church. That there's other people that come to church, and they are hurt, and they're looking for, some solace, and they're looking for someone to comfort them. And then I was saying that, Lord, this is what I do for a living. And so the Lord put on my heart to where on Fridays, I do groups for our ministry. So I do groups of anger management. We do group on domestic violence. I've had group on a group called Moving Toward Recovery, that me and another individual, we had put together a curriculum back in 2006. And Moving Toward Recovery is teaching individuals how to move forward after they have experienced a loss. Because some people, they get stuck, and within the church, they're hurting, because they've lost something. And so within this here particular curriculum, we teach individuals how to move forward with the loss. I also do groups on stress management. We do on relationships, how to establish, sustain, and maintain a healthy relationship within the church. A lot of things, as I said before, there's a lot of divorce in church, and people don't pay attention to what's really going on in church, and people need to know, how do I live not only from a spiritual, but from that natural standpoint, and we are in this world. We're not of this world, but we're in this world, and we need to learn how to make those types of decisions that are healthy for saints of God to move forward. And so the Lord put that on my heart, to where I just took my profession, and I brought it into the church, and we established and we do groups on Friday, which minister, you're one of my favorite persons to come in, because you're in there, you and your wife, and we have a good time.
That's right. And that kind of leads me right into the next question that I had, was going to talk about, was fitting the counseling into the Christian life. And from there, I want to kind of sway into being involved in church and seeing the things that you've seen. What are some of the things that a Christian might want to seek a counselor for? So fitting it, real quick, if we could just kind of talk about the fitting it into the Christian life, and then what are a couple of key things that a Christian might want to seek a mental health counselor for?
Yeah. And that's a great question, because a lot of our Christians, like we believe in, going to God, go and talk to our pastor, go and talk to the elders of the church, which is great, and that's a good thing, because, God, He is, I am that I am, God is our all in all, and He will get us through and help us through. However, there are resources that the Lord has sent here for us, He has put in front of us, that we should be using, because, as I said before, we are in this world, not of this world, we're in this world, and we need to learn how to maneuver through this world in a God-like manner. And so the Lord, He has put, people such as myself in places to where we understand that our Christian faith is under attack when we don't receive the right help, when we don't receive the right resource, going to our pastors. Some of our pastors, they have been equipped in dealing with some of the things that our Christian family, our Christian people are going through. However, they're not really understanding all the things that go into dealing with individuals that are seeking help. Like for me, from a counseling standpoint, every time you deal with someone, you take a holistic approach. And what I mean by that is, just because the individual is a lot of them come in there, they're financially, they don't have money. Well, sometimes individuals, by not having money, you have low self-esteem. You don't take care of yourself. You see things from a negative perspective, and sometimes our pastors don't understand all the other particulars that go in to when an individual is coming to them for counseling when they're hurting. As I said, they'll take them through what God have said, but then that individual still has to go out and live that next day. They still got those 4 kids. They still have, a place where their car's not working. They still have to deal with something that's going on within the family, like substance abuse. You're still looking at individuals that probably even going through domestic violence, and all the time you just can't say just pray on it, that we'll pray on it. No, 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 no. We need to make it a point of not only are we going to pray on it, but we're going to call the police. We're going to put the person in a shelter. We're going to be able to utilize mental health counseling because that person has been abused both physically and mentally, and therefore, we want to have them to be able to move forward. We don't want to keep the perpetrator, we go in and don't let that person be known, and then they continue on abusing and doing the things what they've been accused of doing, and they're doing it right there in the church where the pastors are just saying we gonna pray on it. No, 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 no. We're gonna pray on it, but yet we're gonna get the police involved. We're going to get other things involved. We're going to set these individuals up to where that this individual is no longer abusing their family. There's no, and the family are safe, because that's the first thing that we want to do is establish safety. A lot of times, people, you just can't say, just leave. Because a person can't just leave, because that's what makes individuals even madder. And sometimes the person is so beat down that they can't just leave. So they need someone to be able to talk with them, to guide them, to get them in a safe place, to get the resources that are needed, for that individual. Also, we have a lot of individuals that's dealing with a lot of everyday stress. I mean, very stressful situations. In the year 2020, my business skyrocketed, with anxiety and broken relationships, domestic violence, alcoholism. It just skyrocketed because a lot of people found out that, number one, they really didn't like their spouse, because now they had to stay in the household. They had to stay in the household with this person day in and day out and couldn't go anywhere. And guess what? That those individuals began to really see that, I really don't like this person. I really don't have anything in common with this individual. I really wish that they had somewhere to go, but they didn't have anywhere to go. And those were things that, like from the church, we can only do so much church during that particular time, to where, as I said, the natural side of us, began to come out, because there are certain things that people would like to do. They have to get away from stressful situations, from anxious situations. They have to have some type of resource to deal with those particular things. And as I said, the church, I don't think that we did a really good job during those particular times, because they didn't know. A lot of people don't know about what to do during these here times, during anxiety, during depression, during individuals that's having problems, like within the household. So, it's very important for our church pastors to utilize different resources that are out there to help the congregation and to help the people that are dealing with these things day in and day out. Not necessarily just turning, just saying, just pray on it, just pray on it. We can't just pray on it. We can pray on it, but what else? And so that's how within my field, when I see things like that, I like I said, love our men of God, because a lot of them are doing the best that they can. However, you need to utilize individuals such as myself so that we can take them to the next level, to use that holistic approach to being able to look at not only what's going on with them physically, but financially, spiritually. Do they are they in a safe environment? Let's talk about those particular things, to help that individual be able to make appropriate decisions and choices for themselves that they need, like during that time.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So we mentioned resources a few times in there. Well, I also want to hit on it a little bit. You touched on it a little bit. And the next question is, in working with, I know a lot of pastors, we talked about some pastors are qualified and some may not be qualified to have those types of conversations with members. But a lot of pastors may not understand that Christian counselors can work with the pastor. And if you can just touch on how can a Christian counselor work with a pastor, touch on that real quick. And then also I want you to talk about, and real quick, is there a time when the Christian counselor says, hey, let's involve your pastor? Or have you talked to your pastor about this? If you can real quick kind of touch on those two things right there.
Okay. Looking at the first part, I think, let me see if I have the first part of the question. How do we talk to an individual to let them know about a Christian counselor? Say that again.
Yeah. How can a Christian counselor work with a pastor? Because I know some pastors have some
got you. Okay.
About,
I got you.
They're doing my, just real quick, kind of touch on how.
The one thing that me as a counselor, I always want to make sure I know where my place is. And my place is I am not the pastor of the church, so I have to make sure that the pastor has authority over his members and being able to make sure that he's have that connection and that rapport with their members. And I'm just there for assistance. I'm not there to lead or take over anything like that, and so it's very important for us to be on the same page, that we're not there to divide or to go with a division. We're there to help, and that's our whole premise, is to make sure that we're helping the individual, and one of us is not as important as the other. We are working together, to make sure that the individual is benefiting from not only from what the pastor has to say, but also from what the counselor has to say. And sometimes that the pastor has to understand his limitations also, because he has to be able to understand that although you are the pastor, that you are not gifted in all of what's going on. And that's what happens to some of our pastors. As I said before, they only know what, the scriptures does say how to do certain things. And don't get me wrong, because I do all of the, my entire practice is about my spirituality. However, there's limitations to where that I can go. And there's limitations to where the pastor should go. So they shouldn't take everything and be when I go to the pastor, then whatever the pastor say, I do. See, that he should understand his limitations also, because he does not know everything about what's going out there. He should be able to utilize the resources that are available for individuals that are facing, tough situations. A pastor may not understand schizophrenia. He may not understand bipolar individual. He may not understand, and I see a lot of pastors, will say, ooh, the devil got this person's mind. Yeah, the devil does have that individual's mind. However, that person is still in this world. And guess what? He may need some medications to deal with what's going on. But, a lot of our pastors say, oh, medications, that you don't need that. All you need to do is just to pray. Well, that is true. You can just pray, but also utilize the resource, because that individual needs help. And he needs help in this way also. So those are the things that the pastors, should understand their limitations, just as well as me as a counselor understand my limitations in the spiritual world. Our people should be fed spiritually, not only mentally. So we want to make sure that those two things coincide together so that we're benefiting the individual and helping that person receive the necessary help that they need, in order to move forward.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that there because, and you correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm gathering is that there's the mental health side and then there's a spiritual side. And sometimes you have to work on the mental health side until you can get the person over to the spiritual side to really move into. And they may need medications to help them deal with their current situation.
Correct. Or vice versa. Vice versa. Either way, absolutely. That's why I say we got to work together and not separate. I really don't like when certain pastors will tell people you don't need that medication. That is just not true, because that person may need the medication. God has created individuals that understand the science of the brain to be able to help, because it is a resource. I'm not saying it is a cure-all. It's a resource, and we should utilize the resources that are given to us just like we utilize a toilet. We don't no longer go outside and poop out in the bushes no more. We have updated resources to be used. So don't be afraid to use it. So that's why I would like I said, I don't like when a person tells an individual that needs that type of care to don't do it, because this is all that's going on. That's not a good thing to do in this day and age.
Right. And that kind of leads me into the next question. Thank you for talking about that there and working with the pastor and how important it is that pastors utilize mental health counselors at the same time, and both parties recognizing those limitations. And that leads me to the next part. A lot of times pastors are confronted with something and they don't know how to deal with the mandatory reporting. If you can kind of touch on a little bit of the mandatory report and how it affects the kind of counseling you can provide in being a mandatory reporter.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, as I said, I am a mandatory reporter, and I have to report when I see abuse or any form of mistreatment. And so the one thing that has left is the ability for a parent to discipline. And I'm not one to say that a parent should not spank. And I'm not one to say that, So when you look at mandatory reporting, we have to pay attention to what is abuse and what is not abuse. Because a parent is smacking a kid on the butt isn't a form of abuse, in my opinion. However, if we know that a husband is beating their wife, we know this and we see the marks. We've heard the report, and we're not saying anything about that, but come to my office and we'll pray about this. That's wrong, because that person is abusing an individual, and that needs to be taken to the next step. That person that we're sending back, that person is in fear of what can happen to them when they go back home. So that person is not in a safe environment. They're not going home to a safe environment or to safety. Sometimes, as I said before, what makes it difficult is because the person may not have any place to go, and they may not have anything else to do. Right. So that's why I say utilize the other resources that person may have, such as shelters, such as crisis centers, such as what they call those reports, like stay away from the individual. I can't think of it right offhand, but I'm sorry, say that again.
Restraining orders?
Restraining orders, absolutely. Those things need to be utilized, like because that person is in a form of danger. They're not safe, and nobody should have to live in an environment where they don't feel safe, or they feel as though that they're going to be abused. Our pastors should not allow, knowingly, that this is going on in a household, and no one is being notified about that except the elders and deacons in the
Mhm.
church. See, that's that
Right.
that you know that has been going on a lot, and I hear it from a lot of people, that are turned off with church, talking about, well, I was did like this here in the church, and did nobody do nothing, and I was abused, and they just turned their back, and that's wrong, because you're doing more damage down the road, to that individuals than
Yes.
anything, because you're turning them away from the place where they should feel safety and security. You're turning them off from the love of God, because God would not leave an individual purposely in a position to where they're being physically, emotionally, or psychologically abused. So I
Right.
believe that we should be able to utilize people such as myself, and people such, like the other resources that are out there, to be able to deal with individuals like that. Because we don't call, like individuals like that, we don't call that a loving household. We don't, it's called a traumatic household. When
Right.
kids witness domestic violence in the house, we call that they're being traumatized. And those same kids that were 5 years old, that had witnessed abuse within the family, when they're 19 and 20, 21, they turn around and they repeat what they've witnessed over the years. And we say it like this: oh, well, they act just like their mama, or they act just like their daddy, or stuff like that. And you know why? Because we hid this. When we had an
Mm.
opportunity to get in there to change that cycle of behavior, we looked the other way. And I don't think that we should do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks for sharing that there. Um, One of the things I want to go before we get ready to close out here, um, if you could kind of touch on what are some of the steps if someone needs to see a mental health counselor, say they're having some of those things you talked about, the schizophrenia, the bipolar, or the
Mhm.
ADHD, they're having some of those things. What are some of the steps, real quick, they could take to contact you? 'Cause I believe your license gives you, kind of talk to people from different
Mhm.
states.
Mhm.
And what are some of the steps they need to take to get a hold of you or someone like you? And then also, let them know, hey, you should seek mental health counseling if you are feeling,
Yeah.
and real
Mhm.
quick, those
A lot
couple
of
things.
a lot of individuals, when you're noticing that everything that you see, everything that you do is negative. Uh, the sun is out today, yeah, but there's a cloud over there and it's gonna rain. Uh, uh, we're gonna go to the movie. No, we can't go because this here is gonna happen, and nobody wants to be around me. And I think that the world would be, a better place without me, or I just can't do this anymore. When you start hearing individuals talk like that, there's a problem that's going on. That person is not happy with themselves. They're not happy with the environment that's going on. Anytime that you're witnessing or listening to negativity, and it's coming out quite frequently, and
Mm,
people notice a change in individuals' behavior, but they chalk it up to something else that's going on. That's why, like, people, they begin to talk about things that's bad at work, but yet they bring that behavior home, and so now they're taking it out on the kids, they're taking it out on you, they're taking it out on this, and then next thing you know, they're trying to find some type of cure for their anxiety or for their depressed mood or something like that. So they start sleeping a lot. Or if they don't start sleeping, then they want to drink a little bit more. Or if they don't want to drink, then they want to go out. Or if they don't want to go out, then they want to indulge in high risk behaviors. Or they want to have sex all the time, all the time, all the time. You know, there's a problem there. Anxiety is building up in an individual. A lot of people don't pay attention to anxiety because it creeps up on you. You know, it doesn't happen in one day. It'll creep up, and now you have a behavior of negative behavior. Okay,
Wow.
so individuals that are going through it don't necessarily see it, but the person who's around them see it first. So it's important, you know, like for us to bring that to that individual's attention. You know, hey, are you all right? Because I've noticed that this is going on, this is going on, and this here has been happening, and you don't see this going right, and this not going right. You know, and like I say, if you listen to the news, you will hear that so many kids are dealing with anxiety. So many people are dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is one of the number one things that's going on right now. And you know what works for anxiety? Fentanyl. So that's why we have this major increase in fentanyl because
Mm.
it works. But those are the things that we need to stay away from. And when people sit up and be thinking about things like that, what do I need to cure these anxious feeling or these things like that? That's why I say, don't be afraid to pray. Don't be afraid to talk to your pastor. Don't be afraid to say, I need to see somebody. Don't be afraid to do those particular things, to change my behavior, to change the way I look at things. You know, all of those things go hand in hand. Those are resources that an individual should be able to utilize. You know, and most people know that something is going on with them, but they just can't put their finger on it. That's the time when you want to talk to somebody. That's the time when you want to just put things into perspective. You
Okay.
know, it's kind of like your car, your brand new car. It was running great when I first got it, but now I got to get change the oil. But now I got to put on a new fan belt. Now I got to do this here. Same thing, just like you as a person. You know, things don't go right all the time. So, hey, you got to stop in and get a little tune up, get a little change, put a little pride, you know, put some things in order. You know, you're dealing with so much. We're learning how to multitask 5, 6, 7 things at a time, but we're not good at any of them. But we're multitasking them. And if one of those things go wrong, then we blow up. You know, and that's what's happening like right now. So that's when a person needs to seek help, is when they're noticing that they're very negative, that I'm sleeping too much, that I'm doing things that are out of the ordinary, that high risky behaviors is the only thing that I need to do that'll get rid of this anxious feeling. You know, those are the times when you might need to seek help.
All right. And before we close out here, is if you can tell our viewers how to get a hold of you. If someone wants to
Okay.
get a hold of you, what's the easiest couple of ways to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm gonna put it like this, because right now, the type of work that I do, it's like really confidential. However, in the community, I would say you can call. Let me see. You can get in touch with me. Ooh, call you.
Well, you
I put it like that
can.
because I have, and I don't want anyone to waste their time. Not necessarily waste their time, because I would say the Lord has blessed where He's given me a good understanding of doing things. But I have about 3 or 4 things that I'm doing like right now, and so if an individual would like to get in, I just put it out there. Call me at 402 310-0115. Put it like that. I'll put it out there because I don't work with everyone, but I pick and choose right now. I pick and choose whom I work with and and be around. So that the Lord has just been good to where in my field that I do things that I get chance to choose as to what I like to do. And right now, I like to do what I'm doing.
And if someone, if you're not able to help, you can always refer them out to someone.
Absolutely.
You can always, so
Absolutely.
if Mr. Kelley can't help you, he can definitely point you in the right direction. And I want to end our conversation. I want to thank Mr. Kelley for being with us today and talking with us about mental health. And he will be back. We'll be going more in depth about some of the conditions and the circumstances that you talked about with the bipolar, schizophrenia, dealing with children. We'll talk more in depth about that. Or if you have a topic that you would like to talk about, please put it in the comments and we'll get Mr. Kelley to comment on it. And we'll also have some other mental health counselors on who'll be talking about mental health in the church and dealing with our children because it's going to be needed. And the point of our conversation today is I want to make sure everybody understands you need to utilize the resources that God has given the church.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Our pastors are one resource. Mental health counselors are another resource. And there are other resources out there that we need to be taking advantage of because the kingdom of God is in need of stable saints to go out and win more saints. So saints, we do have problems out there and we do need to sometimes seek a mental health. But with that, I want to leave you with that thought. God bless you. We love you and take care. And until next time, y'all stay blessed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.